not lazy, it's just half-assed reviews.
The Future Trunks Saga. This story arc's the reason why I decided to watch Dragon Ball Super in the first place. After seeing Future Trunks' return spoiled all over the internet, I was really disappointed in myself for not watching it as it happened. And with Dragon Ball Super being pretty good so far, I had high hopes. Sadly though, I think this story arc just kinda sucked. I'm sorry, but even with an optimistic approach, there were just way too many things that irked me, and yeah, there were some cool moments here and there. And it wasn't all terrible, but they really could have done better. It starts off in the future with Future Bulma dying and Trunks being sent back in time after being beaten nearly to death. Oh, and him and Future Mai are a thing, which is odd, but to be honest, I kinda like it. But if you think about it, when did Pilaf and the gang make their wish to become younger? It had to have been before the Android Saga, right? There's no way Future Mai doesn't look like an old prune by that point. But then shouldn't they be teenagers in Dragon Ball Super? Whatever. As soon as Future Trunks wakes up in the present, he tries to fight Goku right off the bat, and it turns out that the future villain who's raising all kinds of hell is a Goku doppelganger, politically incorrectly named Goku Black. It's not that Goku Black is a bad name per se, but they constantly refer to him as the Black Guy and even some Black Guy. I'm just saying, it's a little racist, but kind of funny. Anyway, it takes the gang a while to figure things out, but basically the Supreme Kai apprentice from Universe 10 hates humans and intelligent life in general since they get into fights. So now he wants to exterminate every race that has any violent tendencies whatsoever. Very weird motivation, but oh well. During a present-day investigation with Beerus, Goku ends up sparring with the Supreme Kai apprentice known as Zamasu and punches him really hard in the butt. It's then discovered that the evil Goku from the future is actually Zamasu who switched bodies with the future Goku using the Super Dragon Balls, then destroying him when he was done. But the normal future, not the Trunks future. It's weird. After that, he killed the normal future Goku and used this weird ring that Supreme Kais apparently have to go to the future where Devora killed the Supreme Kai, and apparently if the Supreme Kai dies, then so does Beerus. So with Lord Beerus out of the way, Zamasu wants to exterminate all life in this timeline, so he teamed with the Zamasu in Future Trunks' world and wished immortality on himself with the Super Dragon Balls, and of course destroyed those immediately afterwards as well. Now, first of all, how would the normal future Zamasu even know how strong Goku was if he didn't fight him in the first place? The only reason the present timeline Zamasu knew of Goku's strength is because Lord Beerus suspected that Goku Black was Zamasu because of how his energy felt. I don't know why they had to deviate from the manga so much to the point where it just doesn't make any sense. You see, this really irked me, and before I made this video, I did a little research. Apparently in the manga, future Zamasu knew about Goku's strength by watching his fights on GodTube, which is hilarious. What was wrong with that? Some lighthearted silliness isn't a bad thing. Backing things up a little bit, I do like that future Majin Buu was finally addressed, but I wish the anime showed a little bit more of it. Basically, in the future, Babidi and Deborah arrived on Earth way later than they actually did in the present timeline. And while they didn't exactly say this, and it's more my speculation, I'd imagine that in order to resurrect Majin Buu, they had to collect energy from nearby planets since the future Earth had significantly fewer people than it did in the normal timeline. So Future Trunks barely manages to beat Babidi and his gang. Plus, the Z-Sword was spit on in the manga, thus meaning no Mystic Trunks and the death of the Elder Kai. So Trunks saved the day, but at the expense of the Supreme Kai's life, who sacrificed himself so Trunks could finish Deborah off, and Kibito died as well. And something that the anime ignored that I feel is very important to address is that Trunks said that once he returned to the future after Cell died, he trained every single day as if his life depended on it. In the anime, I was under the impression that Future Trunks was about the same strength as Gohan was when he fought Cell, since it did show him transform into a Super Saiyan 2. In the manga, when Super Saiyan 2 Trunks fights Super Saiyan 3 Goku, Vegeta mentions that he's almost as strong, but he obviously wasn't capable of reaching the God or Blue levels. The reason this bothers me so much is because it felt cheap and not at all believable for Future Trunks to be able to power up through anger in order to be defused Zamasu, just because he really wanted to, even though Goku Black was whooping his ass all by himself even before the fusion. And while we're on the subject of how strong Goku Black is, why were the future humans even attempting to attack him with guns? Shouldn't Trunks have told them there's no point? And how does Mai keep surviving these encounters with him? And how come he can't find the humans that are in hiding? Can't he just sense their ki to find where they are? Why not just destroy the planet and let Trunks return to a future with no atmosphere after he went back to the past? And while we're talking about plot holes, why can't Goku just use instant transmission in the future to use the Namekian Dragon Balls to make wishes? Also, why is Future Trunks' hair blue for no reason? If he dyed his hair to honor his mother, that'd be fine. But when the present timeline Bulma learned of a visitor from the future, she immediately asked if he had blue hair. Maybe Trunks told her sometime during the Cell Saga that he'd dye it blue after going back to his original timeline. I mean, that's the best reason I could think of. I mean, the present timeline Kid Trunks has purple hair, but whatever. I give up. There's just too many things that make no sense at all. But to not sound so much like a negative Nancy, I'll mention some things I actually did like really quick. The evil containment wave being brought back is super fucking cool, even though they didn't use it successfully. My favorite thing, though, was seeing Future Trunks interact with a very different present Trunks who grew up in a nice world. But I can't help feeling like this is a missed opportunity to have present Trunks get serious with his training. I've seen the promotional poster for the next saga, and him and Goten aren't even on it, so I'm not holding my breath. I like that Future Trunks gets to interact with a nicer Vegeta too, since even after fighting Cell, he still was kind of a dick. The last cool thing I'll talk about though is Vegeta. Some people hate that it was mentioned that the Potara fusion only lasts an hour if you're not a Kai, but I think that's a much better explanation than Boo's body not allowing it for some reason. And besides, that was just Goku's assumption as to why their past fusion separated, so why would that be considered so concrete? It is bullshit though that the fusion separated quicker because they're stronger, so for some reason that matters? I don't know. Kind of a cop-out if you ask me. If they didn't want Vegito to win that easily, then why not have had Zamasu pretend to be dead and hide until the fusion separated naturally? And how did the Supreme Kai not know that they'd separate after an hour? It's worth mentioning that he and Kibito separated using the Namekian Dragon Balls, which further contradicts GT. Unless they fuse again, I suppose, but hopefully not. And what's with the gang getting beaten up to the point where they lose their transformations? Aren't they supposed to go back to normal when they don't have the energy to maintain Super Saiyan forms? If that's the case, then why do they keep transforming over and over again after apparently being beaten? Where do they get the energy from? It just kinda takes me out of it and feels too much like something you'd see in GT. If they lose their transformations, they should be down and out unless they eat a senzu bean. The absolute worst part about this entire saga that really steams my clams though is the ending. And I don't know how it ends in the manga because I haven't read it up to that point, mainly because I can't find it anywhere. Or it's not even out yet, I don't know. But basically, in the past, Goku became friends with the king of everything, Zeno, and he gave Goku this button if he ever wanted to contact him. Once the immortal Zamasu gets destroyed by Trunks, he engulfs the earth with this weird ghost-like thing, I don't really know what it was. In a moment of desperation, Goku summons the future Zeno by pressing the button, and once he arrives, he's pissed to see what Zamasu had done. And despite the fact that Zamasu's immortal, Zeno destroyed him, the future Earth, and I think the future Universe 7 in general, but I'm not sure. Before Zeno does all of this, the gang returns to the past and waits a few minutes. Then they go back to the future, and Goku asks Zeno if he wants to return to their timeline to have somebody to play with. Throughout this entire saga, Beerus considers killing future Trunks for breaking time travel laws, stressing that it's a very serious offense. Even though Zeno doesn't seem to care since they break this rule right in front of him and even breaks it himself. And if Zeno, the king of everything, doesn't care, then who made that rule to begin with? At any rate, this supreme being, who's basically God, doesn't seem to mind traveling to the past, abandoning his future world's responsibilities. Nor does the present timeline Zeno mind these violations either. So now with no home to return to, future Trunks and Mai go back to the future, but before Goku Black showed up and ruined everything, in a timeline where there are now two future Trunks and Mais. In my opinion, this is honestly the worst ending to any storyline in the Dragon Ball universe, including, and I'm sorry to say this, the non-canon GT. Sure, no overall stories in the GT series were as bad as the future Trunks arc in Dragon Ball Super, but at least none of their endings were this bad. The gang just straight up failed. I'm okay with bad guys winning sometimes, but it's not like Zamasu will come back to get his comeuppance. Yeah, he's dead, but he succeeded. He wiped out humanity in the future. Maybe he's still alive though since he's immortal, but couldn't the present timeline Super Dragon Balls just wish the future stuff back to normal? There's supposedly no limitations whatsoever to the Super Dragon Balls after all. But anyway, I really wanted to like this saga, and I did not go into it with unreasonably high expectations since I didn't want to be let down. But there were just way too many things that didn't make any sense at all. I've got to give the Future Trunks story arc a C-. It's not that bad, and it did have redeemable qualities, but it could have easily been so much better. The next arc looks promising though, and I'm optimistic that it'll be better since the Universe 6 and 7 tournament was awesome. Plus, there's gonna be even more fighters involved, like Android 17, who's one of my personal favorite characters in the entire franchise. Let me know in the comments what you thought about Future Trunks though. By the way, I like the Aurelia episode for what it was. Okay, see ya.